Hi everyone, and welcome to this tutorial video. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to draw a hood from the side view, kind of inspired by the Assassin's Creed characters and that kind of assassin style of having the hood cover most of the face. In this example I'm using a mechanical pencil with HB leads on smooth Bristol board paper, but you don't have to worry about the equipment you're using. As long as you have a pencil and paper in front of you, you'll be fine. I also recommend using a blending stick if you have one, but if you don't, then blending with your finger would be fine. I started off with a simple silhouette of the face from the top of the nose downwards, and I started off by drawing the inner edge of the hood. This covers most of the face, and so we don't have to worry about adding details to the eyes and that kind of thing, so that's why this kind of drawing is really nice. This is probably the easiest angle to draw a hood from, where you don't have to worry about adding many details to the face. I just tried to follow the flow of the fabric down the side of the face and trying not to add any rigid lines. It's all about kind of giving that effect of having folded fabric. I also followed the lines going around the top of the head and around the back of the head, this time making sure to leave enough room for the person's head underneath the fabric, so trying to imagine where that would be and making room for that. And making sure to add a few folds here and there around the edges. I also made sure to add the lines of the hood that you'd expect on the other side of the face, just to show that kind of 3D effect, having the opposite side of the hood, just some of the edges being shown in the background. And once the outlines were completed, it was time to move on to the shading. And I started off by shading the face. I wanted to keep the shading nice and smooth, so that's why I used the blending stick. Using a finger is fine. Just blending the shading for the skin texture is really helpful in giving that nice smooth effect. I made sure to add some darker shading on the inside edges alongside the hood, underneath the chin and on the lips and that kind of thing, just adding some really simple shading, not worrying too much about the details for this part, as not much of the face is shown. And with some nice smooth shading added to the face, it was time to move on to shading the hood. I started off by adding some dark outlines around the edges of some of the seams that I added. I wanted to create that kind of 3D effect of the seam kind of protruding from the surface. So having some darker shading blended outwards towards the right really helps to show up the highlighted area of the seam. I also started to add some rough bits of shading, just trying to figure out where I wanted to have the folds in the fabric. It's really helpful to use some rough shading at this point to try and figure out the shape of the hood and the way the fabric flows. And once I was happy with the layout of the darker parts of the shading that I added, I started to use the blending stick over the top of them and kind of blend between them, not worrying too much about if there are any lines or anything left behind. It's nice to add to the texture of the hood. You don't want the texture of the hood to be as smooth as the skin texture, so having a few rough patches really helps with this kind of drawing and helps to add to the realism. I should also mention that in this drawing I'm imagining the main light source to be in the top right, shining down on the top of his head, and kind of adding that highlighted effect towards the right side of the drawing. This means that I wanted to add the darkest shading towards his neck and around that area of the hood. So with that rule in mind, I made sure to add the darkest shading around the lower part of the hood and kind of blended it outwards towards the right side, making sure to leave lots of highlights towards that area and using a smaller eraser to help add some extra highlights where needed. In areas where I wanted the folds in the fabric to be deeper, I made sure to add some really dark shading with a sharp line of contrast between the shaded area and the highlighted area. This really shows up the deeper folds in the fabric, and then having them blended outwards with a blending stick towards the top of the head, that really helps to show the way the folds in the fabric move and the way they kind of become less deep towards the top of the head, and it shows the way the fabric folds towards the bottom of the head and around the neck area. It helps to have the folds kind of concentrated towards one area around the neck, and then having them kind of expand outwards towards the top of the head. And leaving all of the darker shading like this to one area really helps with adding to the depth of the drawing overall. Having it kind of fade outwards towards the highlighted top right really helps. I also made sure to add the darkest shading in the drawing to the background part of the hood to contrast with the highlighted areas of the face, and to add extra depth to the drawing overall. By having the darker background, it really helps to show more depth and it helps to kind of push the highlighted areas of the hood forward. Especially leaving some highlighted areas on the seams, that really helps to kind of push that part of the drawing forward as well, and it contrasts extremely well against the dark background. Overall, those are the only details this drawing really requires. Just making sure to add some darker shading around some of the seams, and making sure to add some darker folds in the fabric concentrated in one area, and then blending them outwards towards the highlighted areas. Those are the kind of main rules of this drawing. Contrast is an extremely important thing for drawings like this, and having the darker areas really help to push forward the highlighted areas is a great thing to keep in mind. This drawing overall only took about, I think it was between 45 minutes and 1 hour. And if you do work on this, or if you've worked on anything similar, then feel free to show me your work on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. I really hope this video was helpful in some way, and please let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoy videos like this, then make sure you're subscribed, and any likes or shares in this video are hugely appreciated, and it really means a lot to me. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and follow along with the progress photos throughout the week, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below. And once again, thank you so much for the support on this channel. It really means a lot to me, and I can't wait to work on some more drawings. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all soon.